Hi, Democrats. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. So today I'm going to be joined by Amber England, who is the powerhouse behind the Raise the Petition ballot initiative that's going on, Raise the Minimum Wage ballot initiative that's going on right now. And so she's going to tell us what the petition is about, how to get involved, and what the deadlines are, and all the information. And rather than me telling you what she's going to talk about, I'm going to welcome Amber England. Welcome, Amber. You're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me.
So I like to start out with the basics. We know that this petition is about raising the minimum wage, but can you talk us through exactly what it's trying to do?
Yes. So State Question 832 is a gradual increase in the state's minimum wage from $7.25 an hour, where it currently sits and has been at $7.25 an hour since 2009. And it will get us to $15 an hour gradually over the next 5 years. Once it hits $15 an hour, it would then be tied to inflation. So that's really, really important, because when the cost of gas, groceries, and housing just keeps going up, we think wages should keep up as well.
So that's an important part. The minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. And we know that inflation has gone up and rent has gone up and all of those kinds of things. And how do people keep up? So what you're trying to do is raise it. We all know it should be raised almost doubled, or probably doubled where it is, but our state doesn't have an appetite for that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, what we know is that at least since 2006, I used to work in the state Senate as a staff person. And I remember in 2006 that there was an effort in the Senate to try to raise the minimum wage at that time. It didn't get out of the House. And ever since then, for almost 20 years, no bill has ever been able to make it out of committee, much less a floor vote, to raise the minimum wage. And so we just believe that politicians simply don't have the courage to do this. And it's why we think it's time for voters to decide this issue for ourselves. And it's why we filed the initiative petition back in October of 23 in hopes that it would make the ballot. So we are at the process now where signature gathering has begun. It's Tuesday, April 16th, the very first day of signature collection. And we're really excited. We've trained over 100 volunteers already who will be out with their clipboards and pens, getting signatures from registered Oklahoma voters who believe that it's time to decide this issue once and for all at the ballot box.
So right now, the petition is out there. So I've been saying this for weeks. When you run into someone at the Walmart parking lot, or you're at the Sam's parking lot with a clipboard, or a festival or a concert, don't avoid them. This is how we raise the minimum wage.
That's absolutely right, Alicia. And I think it's important to note that really we're not in the stage of the campaign where we're trying to convince voters, which I don't think that the folks who are watching this show today have to be convinced that it's time to raise the minimum wage. But this part of the campaign really is about telling Oklahomans we have the right to decide this issue for ourselves. Just sign the petition to get it on the ballot. So it's actually a much easier ask for volunteers. It's also why, volunteering at this point of the campaign to go pick up a clipboard and a pen and get trained to actually go out and collect signatures yourself. It's actually a pretty easy process in terms of getting trained. And it's a really great thing to do, to know that you helped provide a couple of, pages worth of signatures to help get this on the ballot. And you're not having to convince a voter whether or not this issue is the right thing to do, or whether or not this candidate is right or wrong. You're just saying, hey, this is a right that's enshrined to us in our Oklahoma Constitution. Don't you think that we should take this on and decide this issue for ourselves? And I always try to remind voters that during this phase of the campaign, that's really what this is about.
And that's, I say all the time, how do we get more candidates on the ballot? We support the ones that are on the ballot. How do we protect our ballot initiative process? Is that we participate in the ballot initiative process, because maybe minimum wage, although I can't imagine it, but maybe minimum wage isn't your issue. But the way that we protect it so that your issue can be on a ballot is that we keep this process alive.
Yeah, and Oklahoma has a long tradition of using initiative petitions, using the petition process to actually take things to the ballot that, again, politicians either didn't have the courage to decide for themselves or just simply didn't want to, didn't think the timing was right. And right now, that process is under attack at the legislature. They're trying to make it more difficult to use the ballot initiative process. And regardless of what party you're affiliated with, where you lie on whether or not you think we should raise the minimum wage, you should care about protecting the initiative petition process in Oklahoma, because it is the process that gives voters the power. And right now we have politicians trying to take power away from voters. And that's not going to stand with Oklahomans of all political stripes, by the way. We were the first state in the entire country to enshrine this right in our state constitution. And it's something that we all should be fighting for right now. And so what a great way to advocate for the protection of the ballot measure process than going out and collecting signatures for this issue of minimum wage. Because what we know is that it hasn't been raised since 2009. The cost of gas, groceries, housing just continues to go up, while wages for hardworking Oklahomans have largely stayed the same. Sure, they've probably gone up at the top. Rich people are getting richer. But in terms of just everyday, ordinary working folks, things are tough right now. People are trying to figure out, how do I pay my electric bill? How do I afford rent? How do I afford gas and groceries? How do I afford childcare? These basic questions that Oklahomans are trying to ask, we're trying to help provide some relief for hardworking Oklahomans in their paycheck. And I often have heard, and especially the state chamber who's opposing this ballot measure, they've long opposed anything that helps hardworking Oklahomans, but this feels particularly terrible because they, at the same time that they are fighting for workforce issues, they don't seem to care about this very important economic issue for Oklahoma families. So to me, it screams just how out of touch they are, because this policy actually impacts over 500,000 Oklahomans. So over 320,000 families, 320,000 workers, and then another 200,000 children in families who this will impact. So that's a quarter of our population that this is actually going to impact. Not a quarter of our maybe it's we're over 500,000 Oklahomans. We're about a 4 million.
Half a million Oklahomans will be directly affected.
We're close to 4 million people in the state, and this is going to impact 500,000 of them. And so when we think about, we delivered Medicaid expansion in 2020 via the initiative petition. For, again, politicians ignored the issue for decades. And then we were able to stand up together as Oklahomans and come together and pass Medicaid expansion.
And today, over 200,000 Oklahomans were able to get insurance.
That's right. Yeah. And so if you compare it, this is as large, if not larger, as the impact that Medicaid expansion had. And so I think that oftentimes people think, well, this is just an issue that impacts teenagers or folks that are just working a second job. No, ma'am. This is childcare workers. This is healthcare workers. These are people that are taking care of the most vulnerable among us. And we should care about these essential workers that are largely working for below the poverty level, below a living wage. And we have an opportunity to do something really, really good for the future of our state. And in the next 90 days, that means collecting as many signatures as possible to get on the ballot. We know we have an uphill battle. Look, they don't make this process easy. It shouldn't be. It should be a hard process. If you're going to get something on the ballot and change a policy, it should be difficult. I just believe that, because as easy as you can change something for the good, you could also use that process for bad. So I respect the process. That means that we have to have over 92,000 signatures collected from valid signatures collected from registered Oklahoma voters in 90 days. So if you do the math, Alicia, that's like over 1,000 signatures a day that we're going to have to collect from Oklahomans. And we know that you, Amber England, have proven that it is possible.
You know, just so that our audience knows, what other petition processes have you been a part of?
Yeah, so I was involved in State Question 779, which was the initiative petition to increase the sales tax by a penny in order to fund education. We fell short at the ballot box, but we did qualify it for the ballot. It actually, I would say we failed forward, because what that did is it actually led to the teacher walkout that then created the largest investment in education in our state's history. And so again, without that initiative petition process, I don't know that folks would have been ready to walk out. It took us like having this large conversation about what it meant to fund our schools and pay our teachers well, to have that on the ballot, and then, a year and a half later to go to the Capitol and demand that they do something about it. That initiative petition process was very, very critical. So I don't actually see an issue of like, well, can you win or not on the ballot? Yes, we can win minimum wage on the ballot. It hasn't lost in 25 times that it's been on the ballot across the country, including states and municipalities. It's also, by the way, why the state chamber is trying to keep us off the ballot. It's why they're working at the Capitol right now to make it harder for the initiative petition process to be used, because they know if it gets on the ballot, it's going to pass. But I was involved in that. I was involved in Medicaid expansion. We ran a decline to sign campaign once we actually passed the funding at the state legislature to fund the education package. And then if you remember, there was a group of Oklahomans that came together to file a veto referendum to try to wipe away all that funding. We ran, I worked with a group of educators to run a decline to sign campaign, and we were successful in that campaign, making certain that that didn't get on the ballot. So I have been involved in several ballot initiatives over the last. I've never faced as much adversity to date as this one, and largely that's a combination of two things. One, the state chamber has deep pockets, and they are fiercely opposing this, and so they've just delayed us nearly 5 months at this point, potentially making it very, very difficult to make the 2024 ballot. And then the legislature right now, as we speak, are trying to put new rules on us that would potentially invalidate, thousands of signatures for no reason whatsoever. And so it's just a really, really tenuous time to be involved in the ballot measure space. But in my opinion, it's why it's so important that we move forward and protect this process and try to get the signatures. If we don't get the signatures in time, it's not going to be because people don't believe that we shouldn't increase the minimum wage. It's because the process is rigged against, they're trying to rig the system against us right now. But we're going to double down and work extra hard in the next 90 days to try to make sure that we are giving voters the opportunity to decide this issue for themselves.
Awesome. And so if you want to find more information out, you can go out to raisethewageok.org. Find more information. If you want to volunteer to be a petitioner, to go out and gather signatures, or you want to find out where people are going to be to gather signatures, please go out to Mobilize. It's across the bottom here, Raise the Wage Oklahoma, mobilize.us, Raise the Wage Oklahoma. You can find out how to learn to collect signatures. You can find out where they're going to be, because we've got to get those 92,000 signatures. I want to be very clear about this. This is not an initiative that is being led by the Oklahoma Democratic Party. I want to be very clear about this. I don't want to cross lines and get people confused. But one of our main goals is to provide a livable wage. Make sure that people have access to economic opportunity, but raising the minimum wage does that. And so we support it. Though we did not initiate it, this is not being led by the Oklahoma Democratic Party, but we support it, and I wanted to get the word out. I want to make sure that I put that disclaimer. Are you good with that disclaimer?
Yeah, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to come on here. We'll talk to any group who believes, like us, that it is time to increase the minimum wage in Oklahoma. And so we thank you, Chairwoman Andrews, for allowing us to come on here today. And we are excited about the next 90 days and to show the enthusiasm of this campaign as we sort of peek our head out from underneath all the legal challenges that we've been facing. I am really, really tired, as you can imagine, from the last 5 months, but I'm energized by the excitement that this campaign's been generated in the last few days.
Well, thank you for coming on and providing more context than I could. I just think that we cannot miss this opportunity. We all have to be aware and we all have to participate. So thank you very much, Amber.
Thank you so much.